The line she couldn't cross. Lena stood at the entrance of the alien office building, holding a thin folder in her hands. Her fingers were cold, not from the wind, but from fear and exhaustion. The bright neon lights above her flickered, in a language she couldn't read. She had been standing there for 20 minutes, waiting for the security scanner to give her access, but the door remained shut. The aliens inside knew she was there. They just didn't care. Her daughter Ella waited back in their small rented room, a single heater keeping the cold away. Lena had skipped breakfast again to save food for her child. It had been 5 days since she last earned anything. Since then, she had gone to 12 different companies. All of them were owned or managed by aliens. All of them had said the same thing. No, we don't hire humans. No, we don't need single mothers. No, we don't want problems. Lena looked down at her boots. The left one had a crack near the toe. It would soon tear open completely. Her coat was secondhand and too thin for the colony's harsh weather. Her eyes burned, but she had no tears left. Not anymore. Finally, the door opened. A tall alien stood there. His skin was gray-blue, his eyes small and black like stones. He looked at her folder without a word, then at her face. "You again," he said in a flat voice. "Didn't we tell you last week that there's nothing for you here?" "I just want a chance," Lena said, trying to keep her voice calm. "I can do admin work. I'm trained. I used to work logistics on Earth. I've managed inventory, handled ship schedules. Please, I just need a job." The alien laughed softly. "You humans never understand. We don't want your Earth systems. We don't want your chaos. We don't want you." He turned and walked away, leaving the door open behind him for only a second. Then it closed again. With a soft hiss, Lena stood there, the rejection cutting through her like ice. She walked slowly back to the transport stop. The streets were crowded with alien traders, robotic messengers, and busy engineers. No one looked at her. No one noticed the tired human woman walking through their world like a ghost. When she reached her room, Ella jumped up from the floor where she was drawing with a broken stylus. "Did you get the job, Mama?" Lena forced a smile. "Not this one, sweetie, but maybe the next." Ella nodded and went back to her drawing. Lena sat beside her and looked at the picture. It was of a house with a garden and a sky full of stars. A place they had never seen. Later that night, while Ella slept curled in a blanket, Lena searched job listings on her old pad. Most were already filtered. The ones she could see were marked alien only or required permits she didn't have. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. She was about to close the screen when a strange listing appeared. Outpost 17. Communications assistant needed, human-led. Shelter provided. Remote location. Travel costs covered. She stared at it. It looked real. The listing had no alien language, no fine print. She clicked on the contact link. A voice message began playing. "This is Captain Reed from Outpost 17. If you're human, honest, and willing to work hard, we want you. We believe everyone deserves a second chance. Contact us. We'll handle the rest." The message ended. Lena leaned back in her chair. Her heart was racing. It could be a trap, or a scam, or maybe just an old post that no longer mattered. But something in the captain's voice sounded different. Kind, steady, real. She looked at Ella sleeping on the bed. Then she looked back at the screen. The next morning, Lena packed their things. She had one bag of clothes, one small case with her documents, and Ella's drawing folder. They took the cheapest transport to the edge of the colony. From there, they boarded a supply ship headed to the outer sectors. The journey was rough. Ella got sick once. Lena cleaned it up and held her close. She didn't sleep. She watched the stars through the small window, wondering if she was doing the right thing. Wondering if humans like her still had a place in the galaxy. 3 days later, the ship landed on a frozen moon. Outpost 17 was not much to look at from the outside. Metal walls, simple gates, a few towers. But it stood strong against the wind. Inside it was warm, clean, and busy. A tall man with brown hair and a calm face met them at the gate. He wore a black jacket with the word Captain on the shoulder. "You must be Lena," he said. "I'm Reed. Welcome to Outpost 17. Lena shook his hand. It had been months since she'd done that, shook a human hand. It felt strange and familiar at the same time. "This is Ella," Lena said, as her daughter peeked out from behind. Her legs, Reed smiled. "We've got kids here too." "She be safe. You both will." He gave them a small room and warm food. No one asked about her past. No one laughed at her. No one looked away. That night, Lena sat on her bed while Ella slept peacefully beside her. The walls were plain. The lights were dim. But for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like a ghost. For the first time, she felt seen. And somewhere deep inside, hope began to rise again. Outpost 17. Lena woke up early the next morning. The room was quiet and warm. She sat up slowly, looking around. The bed was small but soft. Ella was still asleep beside her, holding her favorite drawing rolled in her arms like a toy. For a moment, Lena stayed still, listening to her daughter's soft breathing. It was peaceful, the kind of peace she had not felt in a long time. After washing and changing clothes, Lena stepped outside their room. The hallway was clean and wide. Pipes ran along the ceiling, and lights glowed a soft yellow. She followed the signs toward the main area. Other humans walked past her. Some carried tools, some wore uniforms. All looked busy but calm. They nodded when they passed her. No one stared. No one whispered. It felt strange to be noticed without judgment. She reached the main command room, where Captain Reed stood with a group of officers. He saw her and walked over with a slight smile. "Sleep well?" He asked. Double quotes, "Yes." "Thank you," Lena replied. "Good, come with me. Let me show you around." They walked through different sections of the outpost. Reed explained things slowly and clearly. Outpost 17 was built long ago during the early days of human expansion. It was small compared to the alien cities, but strong and independent. Humans managed everything themselves. From power to food to defense. Reed stopped outside a medium-sized room filled with screens and panels. There were blinking lights and humming machines. A woman with short hair sat at a desk, typing fast. "This is communications," Reed said. "This is where you'll work. You'll handle messages, monitor incoming traffic, and update cargo reports. It's not hard, but it needs focus." Lena stepped closer and looked around. The screens reminded her of her old job back on Earth. She remembered sitting at a desk just like this, planning delivery routes for supply ships. "I can do this," she said quietly. Reed nodded. "I believe you can. You'll train with Mara. This week, if you need help, ask. No one here works alone." Lena felt something shift in her chest. It was small but real. Trust. She hadn't felt that from anyone in a long time. After the tour, Lena returned to the room and found Ella awake, sitting on the bed and coloring. "Mama, there's a playroom," Ella said excitedly. "A nice lady showed me. They have toys and books and even a fake tree." "That's great," Lena said, helping her get dressed. "We're staying here now. You'll make new friends." Ella smiled and nodded. Her eyes were bright, her voice light. The shadows that had followed them seemed to be fading. Days passed quickly. Lena trained during the day and spent evenings with Ella. The job was simple but important. She learned to read signal codes and manage reports. She worked hard, often staying a bit longer to double-check her tasks. She wanted to prove she belonged. The others noticed her effort. Mara praised her for catching a shipping error that could have delayed supplies. A technician named Tom shared his lunch with her one afternoon when she forgot to eat. Another worker helped her fix a broken screen in her room without being asked. There was no cold laughter, no sharp eyes. No one called her weak. Here she was just Lena, a worker, a mother, a human. One evening, while she was walking back from her shift, Reed joined her. "You're adjusting well," he said. "I want to help," she replied. "You already are. You've brought more than just skills. You've brought heart. This place needs that." They walked in silence for a moment. The corridor was quiet. Outside the window, stars filled the sky. "Why do you run this place?" Lena asked. "Why?" "Stay here when the bigger colonies have more power." Reed looked at the stars. His face was calm, because this place stands for something. The galaxy forgets sometimes. It forgets that humans have worth, that we build, that we protect each other. "I stay because I believe we still matter." Lena didn't speak. She felt his words settle inside, her like warm light. The next week brought trouble. An alien patrol ship entered the moon's orbit. It didn't land, but it scanned the outpost multiple times. Then, a message came through. Cold and official. Alien Trade Council reports that Outpost 17 may be violating interspecies labor agreements. Confirm all employee records for review. Crew gathered in the meeting room. Reed stood at the front, his face serious. "They know we hired a human worker without their approval," he said. "They want us to remove her, or they'll block supply routes." Everyone looked around the room. Lena stood in the back, silent. Her hands were cold, her heart beat fast. She could feel the old fear creeping in again. Reed looked at her. His voice was clear. "I hired Lena because she was the best person for the job. I won't send her away because others say she doesn't fit their rules." Someone clapped, then another. Soon, the whole room was filled with voices of support. Lena felt her throat tighten. She didn't know what to say. That night, she sat on her bed, holding Ella close. Her daughter slept peacefully, unaware of the storm forming outside. Lena looked at the ceiling and thought of everything they had been through. All the doors that had closed. All the faces that had turned away. Now, one door had stayed open. And behind that door were people who saw her. People who believed she would not run this time. She would stay. She would fight for her daughter, for herself, for the chance they gave her. Under pressure. The sun on the frozen moon never rose fully, but the sky held a faint blue glow that told the people of Outpost 17, a new day had started. Lena walked through the halls with her badge clipped to her coat. Her steps were steady and her eyes calm, but her mind kept turning. The warning from the alien patrol still echoed in her thoughts. She had been told to leave or the outpost would face the consequences, yet she was still here, still working, still trusted. Inside the control room, machines buzzed softly. She took her seat beside Mara, who greeted her with a nod and slid a report toward her. "Cargo logs from last night," Mara said. "Check for missing entries." Lena focused on the screen. Numbers, routes, codes. Her fingers moved quickly. She spotted one strange delay in a delivery signal and highlighted it. Mara glanced at it and raised her eyebrows slightly. "Good catch," she said. Hours passed quietly. No one spoke of the warning. No one looked at Lena differently. But she could feel the tension in the air, like static waiting to spark. At lunch, Lena sat alone near the corner of the mess hall. Ella played with other children nearby. They built little towers with recycled parts and laughed when they fell. Lena smiled watching them. For the first time since Earth, Ella laughed without fear. Captain Reed entered the hall carrying his food tray. He spotted Lena and walked over. "Mind if I join you?" She shook her head and moved her tray slightly to make space. He sat and took a few bites before speaking. "You're doing well," he said. "Mara says you're fast and careful." "I just want to do my part," Lena answered. "You already are." but things might get harder. The patrol ship didn't leave. It's still up there watching. Lena looked down at her food. She hadn't touched it. If I leave, will they back off? Reed stared at her for a moment. I don't know. But that's not the point. We don't give up people just to please those who don't believe in us. Lena didn't reply. A long silence followed. But it wasn't heavy. Just honest. Later that evening, as Lena walked Ella back from the playroom, the lights flickered twice. A low sound came from the walls, a warning signal. The power dipped and then returned. Emergency lights turned red in the hallway. Ella looked up at her mother. Is something wrong? Lena smiled gently and picked her up. Just a small glitch. We'll go check with the captain. When they reached the control room, Reed and his team were already at work. Screens showed a large power drop on the east grid. Some outside lines had gone dark. Reed looked calm, but his voice was sharp. Sabotage attempt. One of the relays was disabled from orbit. Not a natural fault. Lena stepped closer. Can I help? Reed nodded. Reroute backup signals through the main network. We need to keep life support stable. Lena moved quickly to the nearest station. Her fingers flew across the keys. Ella sat quietly on the floor, holding her sketchpad. The room filled with quiet tension. Everyone focused. No panic, just worked out. An hour passed before the grid came back. Online, Reed turned to the team. Good job. We're stable for now, but this was a warning. Lena looked at him. What happens next? They'll push harder, he said. They want to break us without using force. They want us to feel weak, to give in. She thought of all the doors that had closed in her face, all the time she had been told to leave. But here, no one pushed her away. No one told her she didn't belong. The next day, people in the outpost worked together like never before. Engineers checked systems. Guards sharpened defense plans. Families helped each other repair worn equipment. Everyone understood what was at stake. Lena spent extra hours fixing communication lines. Her fingers ached, her eyes burned, but she didn't stop. She was not just working for herself. She was working for everyone who had been told they were not enough. That night, a small gathering formed near the central hall. A technician named Ben brought his old guitar. He played a soft song from Earth. Others hummed along. Children danced. In slow circles, someone handed Lena a warm drink. She sipped it and felt the warmth reach her heart. Reed stood near the edge of the group. He watched silently. His face was still, but his eyes held a rare softness. Lena walked over. They're not scared, she said. They're tired of being quiet, he answered. Out here, we don't follow their rules. We build our own way. She looked around at the people smiling, laughing, singing old songs. This place matters, she said. It does now more than ever. The next morning, a new message came. From orbit, a final notice. Remove the human from duty. Confirm compliance. Or lose trade rights and supply routes for 10 cycles. The crew gathered in the hall again. Read the message out loud. No one spoke for a long time. Then a woman from the kitchen stepped forward. She stays, she said. A man from the maintenance team nodded. She works harder than most of us. She belongs. Others joined, one by one. Some stood in silence. Some shouted, some clapped. All stood with Lena. Reed raised his hand and the room fell quiet. If we keep her, he said, we face shortages. Maybe worse. Lena stepped forward. Her voice was steady. I'll leave if it keeps you safe. But Reed shook his head. You're not the problem. The problem is them thinking we can be broken. He turned to the others. Do we stand or do we fold? Voices rose again. We stand. That night, the stars above seemed closer. Lena sat with Ella beside the window. Her daughter leaned on her shoulder and whispered, Are we staying here forever? Lena looked at the sky and then at her child. Yes, as long as they let us. As long as we can. A place that once seemed far away had become something more. A place where her voice mattered. A place worth fighting for. The storm breaks. The wind outside howled louder than usual. Snow and dust swirled around the outpost, crashing against the metal walls. Inside, Outpost 17 stayed strong and lit, but the people could feel the pressure growing. No messages came from orbit, no updates, just silence. And in that silence lived fear. Captain Reed stood in the control room watching the scanner. A small red light blinked every few seconds. It marked the alien patrol ship still in orbit. Still waiting, still watching. Lena entered the room carrying a file of supply records. She placed it on the table and stood beside him. Reed glanced at the scanner and then at her. "They're planning something," he said. Lena didn't reply. She already knew. Every day the silence got heavier. And silence from aliens meant decisions were being made behind closed doors. Mara walked in with news. 2 nearby trade routes had gone dark. Ships carrying fuel and medicine were blocked. Cargo, meant for Outpost 17, had been rerouted. Nothing was reaching them now. The message was clear. If you keep the human woman, you pay the price. Reed called a meeting that night. The main hall filled with workers and families. Children sat in laps. Engineers stood at the back. Everyone listened as Reed spoke. "They've cut us off. No fuel. No medicine. No outside contact. The room stayed quiet. They think we'll give up. That we'll push her out and crawl back to their system." Lena stood in a corner holding Ella's hand. The people didn't look at her with blame. They looked at her with something stronger. Respect. "We have 2 choices," Reed said. "Send Lena away. Or stand together and find a way through this." An older man from the repair team stepped forward. He had oil on his sleeves and a stiff limp in one leg. "I came here because I wanted a life with my own hands, not with permission from others. I say we fix what breaks and hold the line." A woman from the farms nodded. "We can grow enough food. We can share what we have. No one starves." Others joined in. The room filled with quiet voices. Then strong ones, then full shouts. "We stay. We stand." "She stays." Lena stood still as her chest filled with something sharp and warm. She had never asked for a fight. She only wanted work. A place for her daughter. But these people were ready to risk everything for her. For the right to choose who belongs. The days that followed were hard. Power was limited. Lights stayed dim. Heaters worked only during sleep hours. Water was rationed, but no one complained. They worked longer hours, shared tools, shared food, shared laughter when they could. Ella still played with her friends. She still smiled. Lena worked in shifts and helped in the kitchen when she could. She checked systems, fixed wires, cleaned floors. Nothing was too small. Every task felt like a promise. "I will not let them down." One night, while checking communications, Lena found an old signal channel buried deep in the system. It was dusty, with age and not used since the early days of the outpost. She opened it and cleaned the path. A weak pulse came through. Static, then a voice. Human, scratchy but real. "This is Station 12. Do you copy?" Lena leaned close and spoke clearly. "This is Outpost 17. We hear you loud and clear." The signal blinked, then grew stronger. Station 12 was a human colony far on the other side of the system. They had heard about the blockade. They had heard rumors. And now they offered help. Not much. Just small trade items and a promise to spread the truth. Within 2 days, other human stations contacted Outpost 17. They too were tired of bending, tired of being quiet, tired of losing their people to silence and rules written without them. Reed called Lena to the control room. "You did this." Shook her head. "No, we did." Outside the window, the alien patrol ship still floated silent. But something had changed. Humans were speaking across stars again, not asking, not begging. Just standing. The aliens responded at last. A message arrived, cold and formal. An official diplomatic inspection would visit Outpost 17 in 3 days. They would decide if the outpost still held legal rights to operate. They would review all staff records, all hiring logs. And Lena would be at the center of their judgment. Reed read the message aloud. His voice steady. They are coming to crush. U.S. without war. To shame us with rules. We show them who we are. The outpost cleaned every room. Prepared every system. Set up full reports and station logs. No one hid Lena's name. No one erased her from the lists. On the day of the inspection, a large alien craft landed near the outpost. A group of tall figures stepped out, their eyes cold, their expressions flat. They walked with sharp steps into the meeting hall. Lena stood at the back of the room. Reed stood at the front. The inspector sat down and began asking questions about policy, about power, about hiring, about history. Reed answered all of them with calm truth. Then one alien pointed at Lena. Why is this? Human woman still here after official warnings. Reed looked at Lena, then back at them. Because she works harder than most. Because she earns her place. Because we choose who we trust. Not youth. Alien leaned back. You risk trade and safety for her. We risk everything for what is right. Silence filled the room. The inspectors took notes, then left without another word. That evening a new message arrived. No judgment, no punishment, no support. Just silence again. Reed smiled slightly. They don't know what to do. Lena stood beside him. Maybe they never did. Outside the wind blew. The outpost stood strong. The people gathered in the hall again. This time not in fear, but in unity. They sang old Earth songs, told stories, cooked warm meals, laughed. Lena sat with Ella on her lap. Around them were friends, not just workers. Family made by choice. No matter what came next, they were ready because they had already won. Something greater. They had chosen to see worth where others saw weakness. They had chosen to stand when it was easier to fall. In doing so, they had become more than just survivors. They had become a symbol. Hope beyond the line. Lena sat near the window of her room holding a cup of warm tea. Outside, the snow floated slowly over the steel ground of Outpost 17. The sky was gray but calm. There was no sound of alarms, no fear in the air, only the hum of machines and the quiet footsteps of people walking with purpose. The outpost was alive and steady, even after everything. Ella sat on the floor drawing stars and ships with bright markers. She hummed a soft tune, one that Lena had never heard before, but it sounded like joy. The room was warm, the bed was soft, and the silence around them was peaceful, not empty. Lena placed her tea down and stood up. She walked to the hallway where the lights were dim but steady. She passed the message board filled with notes from workers' updates about food shifts and schedules. In the corner, someone had posted a hand-drawn map of all the human outposts now working together. Small lights marked each one. New lines of communication were forming. A network was being born from one act of courage. She reached the main command room where Captain Reed stood over a screen. He looked tired but calm. His jacket hung on the chair behind him, and a half-eaten protein bar sat untouched on the desk. Lena stepped closer. You have not eaten again. He smiled slightly and looked at her. There is too much to read, too many voices reaching out now. Things are changing fast. She looked at the screen. Messages from other outposts were blinking. Offers of help, words of support. Questions about trade, security, and freedom. The silence of the galaxy had broken. People were speaking now, and they were listening to each other. Lena pointed to one message. This one says they want to visit us. A full team of builders from Station 12. Reed nodded. They want to learn how we stood against the blockade. How we stayed together without breaking. She thought for a moment, and then asked, "Do you think this will last?" He looked at her with steady eyes. If We keep believing in each other. It will. Later that evening, the outpost gathered again in the main hall. The lights were soft and the tables full of warm food. Someone had found old speakers and soft music played in the background. People laughed quietly and shared stories. Children ran between tables playing simple games with small blinking toys made from spare parts. Lena stood near the edge watching the scene. Ella was sitting with two other children building a tower of boxes and laughing each time it fell. The sound was light and Truereed approached with 2 cups in his hand. He offered one to Lena and they stood side by side for a moment. In silence, "You remember the first day you arrived here?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "I was afraid. I thought you would turn us away like all the others. But I saw something else in your eyes," he said. "What was that, Hope?" "Even if you could not see it yourself." She looked down at the cup in her hand, then up at the people around her. "The laughter, the calm, the strength. You gave that hope a place to grow. We all did," he replied. The next morning, the message from the human frontier coalition arrived again, this time with full details. Lena was officially invited to attend the first joint meeting of human outposts. They wanted her voice to represent those who had been forgotten. Her experience was proof that unity could survive even under pressure. She sat in her room reading the message over and over. Ella sat beside her drawing shapes in the corner. "Do I say yes?" she asked herself quietly. Reed entered without knocking. He had seen the message too. "You have earned this," he said. She looked at him unsure. "I never let anyone. I only wanted work. A safe place for my daughter. But you led by standing your ground. By working when others would have run. By believing in something better, even when the sky was dark." She closed the message and stood up then. I will go. In the weeks that followed, Lena prepared for her journey. She learned more about the new colonies, the new network. The dreams people now dared to speak aloud. Reed helped her plan the route. Mara gave her advice. Tom from maintenance gave her a small toolkit in case of trouble. Ella made her a badge that read "Brave Mama" in block letters. The day of her departure came. The landing pad was clear, the small shuttle ready. People gathered to say goodbye, not with tears, but with pride. They knew she was not leaving them. She was carrying them forward. Wade walked with her to the ramp. "You will speak for more than just us." Now she nodded. "I will speak for every mother who was told no. For every worker who was overlooked. For every human who was made to feel small." He held out his hand, but she stepped forward and hugged him instead. "It was brief but strong. Come back when you can," he said. "I will." The shuttle rose into the sky, leaving behind a trail of soft light. Ella waved from the window, holding her drawing. Lena sat beside her, looking out at the stars. Each one felt closer than before, not because the galaxy had changed, but because she had crossed the line they drew for her. And she had not done it alone. She had done it with people who believed in her, who stood by her, who refused to let the strong silence, the kind Outpost 17, became more than a place. It became a story, a spark, a beginning, and Lena became a voice no one could ignore. Again, the end.